Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gaming Medley here, and today I'd just like to talk about the phrase conflict of interest and what exactly a conflict of interest is to me. This is of course in response to my latest video, Derek Smart vs. CIG, in which I stated that Chris Roberts and his wife Sandy Gardner working together constituted a conflict of interest for me. This was the main issue that a lot of people had with the video and the reason why a lot of people disliked the video, so I thought it best to just address it in another video rather than replying with the exact same thing to like 70 comments about it. So without further ado, let's begin. Please note that the following video is a large form thought piece that needs to be considered as a whole and not in parts. As such, if you would please watch the entire thing before commenting, that would be really great. Also keep in mind that everything I say in this video is entirely subjective to the utmost degree and is based off of my own personal experiences working with people I know and love, as well as watching people who know and love each other working together, and also experiences garnered from reading news reports and news articles about people working together, etc., etc. You should not in any way feel pressured to agree with what I am about to say, and in fact, I'm all for disagreement and hearing why and how you disagree with what I have to say. However, if you engage in harassment of other users or myself, usage of homophobic slurs or other unsavory actions, I will ban you from the discussion. So feel free to disagree, but please be civil. I know it's hard because internet anonymity gives people a hard on for being assholes, but try to restrain yourselves. Now, in this video, I mentioned that, at least to me, the fact that Chris Roberts, his brother Aaron Roberts, and his wife Sandy Gardner are working together in CIG represents a conflict of interest, and many commenters are taking issue with this. Fairly so, since in the video it's rather poorly worded, and for that I take full responsibility. This video is dedicated to more fully explaining my view on the subject of a conflict of interest, as well as exploring the advantages and disadvantages of people who know each other very well or love each other working together on a project. So to start off, I think I should probably define what I actually think is a conflict of interest, or what a conflict of interest means to me. I think that for a lot of people, when they hear the term conflict of interest, they immediately think of a very negative phrase that means two or more people shouldn't be working together. That's not necessarily what the phrase means to me. I see conflict of interest as a sort of spectrum. There are a range of conflict of interest that one can have, so to speak. These range from completely benign to extremely negative in terms of the consequences they represent. On the positive side, you have an underlying conflict of interest that doesn't really affect anything or can actually enhance the effectiveness of a company, and I think this is kind of how Chris Roberts and CIG currently function. In this way, the conflict of interest created by two or more people who love/know each other very well working on something creates a positive work relationship and environment. On the negative side, you have an overarching conflict of interest that corrupts the essence of the company. This is not what I was saying CIG has, and that's what I think a lot of people thought I was saying. It is my belief that when two people who know each other or love each other very well work together, whether they be siblings or husband and wife, they will be biased towards each other in arguments involving other people. Of course they will. If you ask me whether I would prioritize my girlfriend or Joe Blow, I'm going to prioritize my girlfriend every time. Even if you ask me if I would prioritize my girlfriend or an employee in my company, I'm still going to prioritize my girlfriend over my employee every time in any issues such as arguments or conflicts. To do so is only human nature. If you know someone well and believe them to be good, of course you will act more favorably towards them than you would to someone you do not know well or believe to be good. There is nothing wrong with this, but when you work with someone that you love and respect, it does create a conflict of interest. If an employee in the company a husband and wife own comes up to the wife and asks her to fire her husband because her husband has been harassing workers according to the employee, will the wife do so? Maybe, but most likely only after it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the employee's accusations are true, and most likely long after the husband would have been fired had his wife not been in charge of the investigation. To me, a conflict of interest doesn't mean that two people who work together will blindly prioritize each other over everyone else no matter what. It just will require far more consideration for them to take action against each other than it would be for them to take action against someone else who they don't know, and that's perfectly human. So based on my extremely strict definition of a conflict of interest, I would say that Chris Roberts, Aaron Roberts, and Sandy Gardner working together does represent a conflict of interest to me personally. But does that mean that their work relationship is necessarily a bad thing? No, and it certainly hasn't been so far. Ms. Gardner has done an amazing job as the VP of Marketing for CIG, and Aaron Roberts has done an amazing job as the Studio Director for Squadron 42. Both Gardner and Roberts are, of course, extremely well qualified and equipped professionals. One or two people actually accused me of being sexist or of implying that Gardner wasn't equipped to handle her job or relationship with Roberts because she's a woman, and I can't even begin to explain how false those accusations are. Star Citizen has raised over $90 million, and while a lot of that is due to Chris Roberts being a household name among gamers after Wing Commander, it's also due to the marketing behind the Star Citizen project. Obviously, Ms. Gardner is an excellent marketing VP who is far more successful than I will ever be in all likelihood, and she deserves that success to the absolute and utmost degree. I have nothing but praise for how she has handled her job, assuming of course the escapists' allegations of racism / ageism / what have you on her part towards employees are false, and of course it is safe to assume that those allegations are false and that she has never engaged in such practices unless the escapist can definitively prove otherwise in a court of law. Likewise, Aaron Roberts is an amazing studio director who has worked with Chris Roberts before on games like Wing Commander and Star Lancer, and has produced nothing but amazing results. He undoubtedly deserves his position just like Ms. Gardner undoubtedly deserves hers. And why wouldn't Chris Roberts hire them? One of the benefits of hiring someone you know well and know is capable is that you don't have to hire somebody who might bail on your company or produce unwanted results. Hiring someone you know well who produces proven positive results is not only generous, it's a smart business practice as well. But do I think that it still represents a conflict of interest? Yes, because if you're asked whether you care more about your wife or an employee, I hope that you'll say you care more about your wife. If you're asked if you care more about your brother or a random employee, I hope you'll say you care more about your brother. To do so is, once again, simply human. But does that conflict of interest have to manifest itself negatively? No, it doesn't, and that's where I think the confusion about my statement of these people having a conflict of interest has arisen. I would say that Chris Roberts, Sandy Gardner, and Aaron Roberts would probably prioritize each other over anyone else at CIG because of course they would. I would if I was in their position. No shame or judgment here, but that doesn't mean that they will or that they have. To me, a conflict of interest can be something dormant, something that never necessarily has to arise, but can still exist under the surface even if it never breaks through. And yes, I do realize that this is an expansive and rather broad definition, but it is my personal definition for the phrase, and I can't foresee that changing. Now let's get on to some of the prominent themes that commenters have been bringing up. Some people have been using family businesses as an example of how people who know each other working together can work out well, and I agree completely. My parents run their own business together. However, I think the difference here lies in between business and company. A sandwich shop or a mom and pop store is differently run than a company that has hired hundreds of people. In such a company, should a conflict of interest between two top-level executives who know each other manifest itself negatively, many more people would be caught in the crossfire and could potentially lose jobs than if, say, a husband and wife who own a sandwich shop start having marital issues and the shop closes down. Another thing that people have been bringing up is how Chris, Aaron, and Sandy all work in completely different branches of the company or are working on different projects from one another, which greatly decreases the chances of their relationships with one another entering the workplace. This is completely true, and it's a point I actually hadn't thought about, and I agree with it fully. If Gardner and Roberts were working together in the same branch of the company or were working together on the same project, I would be much more worried. And I'm not really worried at all, nor did I intend for it to be perceived that I was worried in the video I did. My comment about Gardner and Roberts working together being a conflict of interest for me was a comment of opinion in passing that in retrospect shouldn't have been in the video. But it was, and since it's come across as the main problem viewers of the video have with it, I'm now addressing it. Finally, a commenter by the name of Foible Gilneas, whose username I really like, said the following: "There are often also benefits to a couple working together. There may be a level of trust between them that two unrelated senior executives may not have, and that may result in an increase in productivity." This is an excellent point, and I agree fully. As I said earlier, to me conflicts of interest amount to two or more people who know or love each other doing business with each other, and can either manifest themselves in positive or negative ways depending on the work those people do. How this conflict of interest surfaces, or whether or not it does surface, largely depends on the people working together. So far, CIG has done an excellent job, and Chris, Aaron, and Sandy have been incredibly professional regarding their working relationships, as well as any conflict of interest their personal relationships may have on their work together, which has so far only had a positive impact on CIG. Before I go, I'd just like to thank the commenters for being mostly civil in their discussion, and even more for bringing up interesting points that have influenced my opinion and made me think more about the subject. I'm a human, albeit one with a microphone, and I'm just as fallible as anybody else, so I always appreciate it when people can make me see things in a different light or consider aspects of something that I previously hadn't thought about. Alright, I hope this video cleared things up for some people and that you may understand my position on this issue more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. GM out.